Welcome into the Sportscaster and her son, where sports bridges the gap between the generations. I'm your co-host, Peggy Kaczynski, a longtime sportscaster from NBC Chicago, now ESPN in Chicago, ESPN Radio 1000, where I host the Bears post-game shows, and Peggy and Dion on Saturday mornings. Jason is my son, and he is my co-host.
On vacation with you right now, Mom. Isn't it pretty nice being out in not so sunny Florida right now? It's could be better. Yeah. Anyway, I'm the son, Jason Conander. I'm for one more semester a senior at the University of Texas at Austin. Sports director of TSTV there. I also have a podcast, Hook 'em Hoops, with the Field of 68 Media Network, and I am for hire. So if you are listening to this show and you need a sports reporter or MMJ, please reach out to me on social media, and I'll send you my reel, and we'll get talking. So that's my self-promo.
No, listen, I'm with you. Get off the family payroll, get onto your own. I love it.
Please.
So this is what we do as a mother's son that hosts the podcast. We talk sports, mostly about Chicago sports. And today, Jason, we have a fun opportunity because we get to talk not only Chicago Bears, but we also get to talk Texas football, which is what you are so familiar with.
And it couldn't be at any better time of the year, Mom. Getting ready to go to New Orleans here in a couple of days for the Sugar Bowl college football semifinal. Super excited. I never really thought that we would have an episode where we kind of get to mix Bears and Texas football. But, Mom, we've been talking about doing an episode like this for a while, really since April, as we'll talk about here in a little bit. And I just think the timing is great. It's kind of nice having this Chicago Bears Texas football crossover. Both teams are still in contention, varying levels of contention, I would say they are on. But it's fun being here after Christmas, and both teams are still alive and relevant enough to talk about. I mean, what a blessing. I can't believe, Mom, genuinely, that we're here at the end of December, and the Bears in Texas are still relevant enough for us to do a podcast about both of them. It's awesome.
So the Bears have an infinitesimal opportunity chance for the playoffs, but they have seemed to turn things around after a horrible 0-4 start this year.
Yep.
The Bears have found their defense, and they are working towards what looks like it could be an elite defense with maybe a couple of additions coming up next year. And their offense is getting there. But what they do now that they have always done well, and that is run the ball. And at this point in the season, entering week 17 of the NFL season here in 2023, the Bears have the second best rushing attack in the National Football League, averaging 142 yards a game. And that is with the four-headed monster of Justin Fields, who leads the team in rushing, Deontay Foreman, who came in when Khalil Herbert was injured, and Deontay Foreman has just had a couple of monster weeks before he became injured, and Roshon Johnson, the fourth-round rookie out of Texas, out of the Longhorns, who shared the backfield with Bijan Robinson, has been doing a really nice job as well. So the Bears are doing what they have done best, and it's defense and running the ball. Some of the other areas still kind of remain to be seen and is a work in progress.
Yeah, Mom, I do completely agree that certain aspects of this Bears team, it's a far cry from what it was at the start of the season, right? They started out 0-4. At some point, the losing streak that had spanned 2 seasons had gotten up to almost 20. And so it's just nice, like, you mentioned they have a very small chance of making the postseason, but like they're just back to being I don't know if you could say fully respectable, but they're competing every week. And that's a level that this team wasn't at a year ago. And so that in of itself is a win. And I think the running back room, the running attack has been largely a positive, especially with all the questions about the offensive line coming into the season. To still be able to have such a stout rushing attack is very impressive for the Bears. And a big part of that have been the play of both of the Texas guys in the backfield. You mentioned Deontay Foreman had a number of big games before going down with injury. Roshon Johnson has been able to contribute in many areas of the backfield, not just in carrying the ball, but as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He had 5 receptions in his NFL debut against the Green Bay Packers in week 1. As a pass blocker, he has been the best of the 3 Bears running backs by far. Not that the bar is too high there, but, he's been the best of the 3 pass blocking Bears running backs. And he's been working out of the Wildcat lately too, which is something that I've been calling for. I know you've been calling for. So to see kind of how the Bears have been able to adapt, we've been used to this sort of regression as the season comes along. It's been nice to see the Bears actually progress as the season has come along and be a better version of themselves than we saw them start the season as. You know, it likely won't end up in a playoff berth, but at least there are some things that we can look at on both sides, all three sides of the football, really, and say, hey, you know, at week 1, week 4, these things were really ugly. And by week 17, they were a lot better. And so maybe if those first 4 weeks of the season went a little differently, the Denver game, the other Detroit game, I know that wasn't the first 4 weeks of the season, but those 2 games stand out to me where if you could have those 2 back, it's a completely different season. And so, Mom, I think the bottom line is this Bears team isn't that far away.
All right, so that's the Bears. And even though there are question marks that will be answered after the season in terms of head coach Matt Eberflus, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, quarterback Justin Fields, wide receiver Darnell Mooney, there's a lot of question marks as to what direction this team is going to go with some of their key personnel. Fill me in now on the University of Texas and the Longhorns playing in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean it's been a very exciting year for Texas. It's been an accumulation of a couple of years of really heavy recruiting from Coach Steve Sarkisian, installing his system on offense. And we kind of saw it in 2021 with that Alabama football team led by Mac Jones under center, what a Steve Sarkisian offense can do with the full array of weapons and play calling at his disposal. And this season, we've finally seen it. Texas's offense has been very much unstoppable in the last month of the season. The defense has been one of the best defenses in the country. So now the University of Texas will play in its biggest game since the 2009 National Championship when they take on the Washington Huskies in New Orleans in a game that should be a very pro-Texas environment on New Year's Day at Caesars Superdome. Mom, it's going to be an incredible experience. It's going to be a wild atmosphere. This is a position that very few people might have foreseen Texas being in before the season. I sort of saw it coming with 11 out of 12 starters, except for the running backs, returning on offense, and the defense adding some talent and returning most of its talent from last season. To see the University of Texas finally perform like this, some of the players who have spent 4 or 5 years on campus, the coaching staff who has been relentless in recruiting top-tier talent to the university. It's a full accumulation of everything that the school has paid for in the new age of NIL and the transfer portal. And so finally to see Texas playing in these big games, winning these big games, obviously the biggest of the big games will be on New Year's Day against Washington. But, you know, the excitement is very high, and I myself will be going to New Orleans on New Year's Eve to go cover the game. So super excited for the opportunity, super happy that my senior year, my school is playing in this game and in this playoff, and that, you know, not everybody gets that opportunity. 2 schools got screwed this year, Florida State and Georgia. And so very lucky that Texas for once was not, you know, screwed, or Texas wasn't Texas. Finally, they're in the top group, and we'll see how it ends up playing itself out. But it's just so exciting to see what, you know, the energy of a playoff berth, a playoff run can do for a school, especially a school in a city and an alumni base that breeds football the way that UT's does.
Jason, let's bring in our special guest, Bears rookie Roshon Johnson, 8th leading rusher among NFL rookies this year in 2023. He was the Bears' 4th round draft pick. And Roshon, let me just tell you, when you were drafted, I was in studio at ESPN Radio and I was cheering. I couldn't believe it because everybody else was going, well, wait a minute. Like Bijan Robinson, like who's Roschon Johnson? I'm like, you don't know how good he is. So this is a thrill for me that you're on the show. Welcome in.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me, for sure. Thank you.
I'm going to let Jason start off the questioning since he knows all of the Texas history with you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously big game this weekend, Texas playing Washington. I'm curious, how much have you been keeping up with this year's Texas football team, given that it's your first year off the team after quite some time in Austin?
Yeah, it's definitely been a little weird on this end of the stick, but definitely been keeping up with those guys, tuning in when I can, and just, touching bases with a few guys that are still on the team that I was, playing with. So, yeah, definitely been keeping up with them throughout the years, and definitely proud of where those guys are and the places that they're heading.
Yeah, and on the topic of past teammates, I mean, you get to play against your former running back partner in Bijan Robinson this upcoming weekend when the Falcons come to town. Do you have any jersey swap plan with Bijan? Y'all been in touch leading up to the game this weekend?
Yeah. Definitely. We're definitely going to get a jersey swap. So going to be more than excited just to see him play. Did this just end? Oh, I'm sorry. The computer went up. I'm sorry. But yeah, gonna be exciting just to see him play in person on a pro setting, and then just talking to him as well, because this will be probably the first time that I've seen him in person since we've gotten drafted. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Over at 40 Acres, your reputation is so well known, and I don't think Bears fans really knew what they were expecting. So I would tell people that Bijan was the lightning and you were the thunder to the lightning, and you were like the rumble that came with it. How would you describe how you two played together in the backfield at Texas?
Yeah, I definitely think you could use that analogy, thunder and lightning analogy. But I think we just kind of fed off of each other's energy. He would go in and make some plays, and then I would try to keep the ball rolling as best as I could when I got my opportunities. So, yeah, definitely was a tandem running back force at our tenure that we played together. So, it was definitely fun, and I'm grateful that I played with him.
All right, you have to tell me if this story is true or not. Even though Deontay Foreman got the Angry Run Award from NFL Network's morning show, I heard that you would hit so hard in Pee Wee football that the other players would go off the field crying and didn't want to play, and the moms all complained about how hard you hit. Is that true?
There's some truth to that. There was a couple of games where I had a couple of big hits down in Pee Wee football down in Port Neches, and the kids just never came back to play in the game. So, yeah, there's some truth to that for sure.
Deontay Foreman is obviously regarded as somewhat of a legend at the University of Texas because of some of the numbers that he put up in his time at the school. What sort of a mentor has he been to you in your rookie year in the NFL?
Yeah. No doubt. He's definitely a legend on the 40 Acres and, winning the Doak Walker and everything that he did. So he's definitely been a big help and just, let me know how things go in the league, the ins and outs of it, the things, on the field and things off the field that you don't see. So he's definitely been a guy, that's been a reliable counterpart that I could go to for questions and, just general questions about the league. So he's definitely been a big help.
And then kind of swinging back to Texas a little bit, I had the pleasure of getting to watch a lot of Jonathan Brooks this season in his first year with the Longhorns. Put up huge numbers before his season was unfortunately cut short with the torn ACL. Did you expect that from JB after you left the running back room? Because a lot of people didn't know who he was. He was a little under-recruited coming out of high school. Were you surprised to see the numbers he was able to put up this year before he got hurt?
No, I wasn't surprised, honestly, because, a lot of people would ask me, like, how is the running back room going to look next year? And I would always tell them Jonathan Brooks, and they didn't really expect anything. So I think, seeing the numbers that he put up, it wasn't necessarily a surprise for me, honestly.
Roshon, I'm still surprised that you committed to Texas as a quarterback, and that you were a very, very good dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. Tell me about the transition from quarterback to running back. How did that happen? Because I think in 2019, when your first year at Texas, was it in the fall that you switched to running back? And what precluded that? Why the change?
Yeah. So I enrolled early out of high school. So I went that whole spring and that whole summer of 2019 playing quarterback, just trying to get, adjusted to the system with Coach Herman and his staff. And then up throughout training camp leading up to the season during the summer, pretty much all of our scholarship running backs, they were hurt at one point, and we were about a little over a week away from the season. So we didn't have any bodies to kind of fulfill the running back role. And so Coach Herman pretty much asked me, you're the only able body that could really do it, that knows the system. Would I be willing to do it? And I told him yes. So I started playing a little bit, started doing pretty good. play a little bit of special teams just to see what I could do, and I pretty much just took off from there. So that's kind of how that went about.
Well, we finally saw you in the Wildcat with the Bears. You know, I've been screaming for that all year long, saying this guy was a quarterback. This guy is a quarterback. This is who should be taking the snap in the Wildcat. How vocal are you in your rooms with Luke Getsy and letting him know about your quarterback history?
I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of let him, you know, call the plays and call pretty much whatever he wants to. You know, that is an element that they can use me in, but at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, you gotta let him do his thing. So I'm not really that vocal about it.
Roshon, you split carries in college. You're splitting carries this season, but everybody loves what they see out of you in those kind of short bursts where you do get the football. Down the line, 2-3 years down the line, do you see yourself as a feature back in the NFL?
I mean, yeah. I mean, whatever opportunities come my way, whether if I'm a starter or whether if I'm in a rotation, I'm just going to try to make the most out of it. I mean, I know deep down that, you know, I can be a starter in this league, and I am a starter in this league. So whatever situation that I'm posed with, my goal is to make the most out of it and, you know, just to execute when I'm in the game. So yeah, for sure.
And, you know, we kind of joke often with rookie players kind of having a welcome to the NFL moment. Hey, would you say that you've had a welcome to the NFL moment or moments per se this year? And when, you know, what about those can you recall?
I mean, that's kind of tough. I would probably say, I don't know. I've had like just moments of the game. It's more so mentally than physically that are more challenging comparing the league and comparing college. So I would just say getting the playbook and just seeing the complexity of the playbook and the different things that go in and out of, you know, professional playbook is the main thing. But other than that, I mean, I can't really think of like a moment where it's like this moment was my welcome to the NFL. I can't really say that right now, honestly.
One of your coaches during training camp this year said one of his first impressions of you was the type of leadership you already carried as a rookie. And one of the first meetings you were in, guys kind of got up and, you know, left the room a little messy, left the chairs kind of out of place and stuff laying around. And before you left, you went and straightened up the room as it should have been, you know, like the way they saw it when they came in. And the coaches took note of that. Where does that kind of maturity come from with you?
Well, I think first it starts off with just how I was raised a little bit, and then as well. I mean, at Texas, we kind of made sure we left things in order and intact, and, you know, we try to essentially lead things better how we found it, especially with that running back unit. I learned a lot just in, you know, we call it sweeping the shed, and just, you know, taking care of your, you know, pretty much of your space and then respecting other people's as well. So that goes beyond just football. That's for life. So I would say definitely those two things, just growing up and then in my time at Texas, that definitely kind of helped me mature over the years.
Well, I think also being the youngest, when you have older brothers, you kind of like you got to run to keep up and you got to do everything to keep up with them. And I know that you worked out with your older brothers. I don't know that you were doing sled drills. How old were you when you started doing sled drills with your brothers?
So I was probably like 7.
Come on.
Yeah,
like second grade?
Yeah, it was a big tribute to like just my dad helping me out. He would always, you know, just be supportive in whatever I wanted to do, and then, you know, I pretty much knew I wanted to play in the NFL since I was young. So he basically told me if you want to, you know, be at that level, you got to do extra stuff. So yeah, like from running on sleds. Some of my middle school coaches, I remember seeing some of my middle school coaches seeing me run the sled when I was real young. So yeah, I'd probably say I was like 7 or 8.
Well, and you had you were goal oriented, so you had notes all over your walls with your goals. Tell us about what some of those goals were when you were a kid that you had up on your wall.
Yeah, you know a lot. Where'd you get all this information from? I feel like you did your homework, but yeah, I would definitely. My dad was big on making sure I wrote things down on paper because that was like the foundational piece of making something come into life. So, yeah, I made sure, and I still do that to this day. Make sure I write my goals down on what I want to get accomplished and things I want to do, and just kind of, put them up and post them so I can see them. Just remind myself why I do certain things. So, yeah.
What were the biggest of those goals that you accomplished while at Texas?
While at Texas?
Yeah.
I would say, for one, it kind of changes for me every year, so I wrote down like multiple things. But I think just set myself up to be in a position like this, just getting to play at the University of Texas, that as well, and then just kind of set myself up to get a degree. That was a big one, really a major one, was getting a degree from McCombs School of Business, and then just really set myself up to be in this position. So.
And you are in a great position right now, sharing carries in a backfield, being top 10 in rookie rushing yards. You position yourself very well for the next few seasons in Chicago. How do you see it playing out with the Bears? How do you like being in a new city, of course, after spending 5 years in Austin? And does Chicago feel like home for you yet? Like, what do you like about living there?
Texas will always be home for me. I don't think I'm just from Texas. I'm just a Texas kid. So definitely have been getting used to, just the things of Chicago, the ins and outs, and most of all the weather. That's been the biggest thing. But I've been getting used to it slowly but surely. But yeah, I've been enjoying the process, and I just see myself get more comfortable and just better and better over the years, God willing.
You haven't seen nothing yet with the weather, right? Get yourself ready for it. You guys in Texas and Austin, you had like one snowstorm a year and it shut down the whole city.
Yeah. It snowed out here and everybody just acted normal, like nothing was going on. So that definitely was a shock for me. So
just a couple more questions for you, Roshon. And one of them is, growing up in Texas, was one of those notes on your wall that you wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy one day?
I don't know if they said that exactly, but yeah, my family, they were big Cowboys fans growing up. So I don't know if exactly they said that, but definitely just to be in the league was a blessing. So.
Well, look at the similarities. Both have a really good history of running backs. You come to Chicago with a great history of one of the greatest running backs of all time. What is it that you're seeing with the Chicago Bears and their history that, if anything, appeals to you, that kind of brings out that same passion and love, that like Cowboy fans have?
Yeah, it's a long line of running backs that were great here, and it kind of reminds me of Texas a bit, just kind of trying to withhold that tradition of, being that tough, hard-nosed football team that always has a good stable of running backs. So, I think that's definitely apparent here. Just going in certain facilities and seeing, Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, Matt Forte, just guys like that. Cedric Benson, like it's a lot of guys that have come here and have had success.
So my last question for you is, as a former dual threat quarterback, give me your evaluation of Justin Fields as a dual threat, and how would you stack up with him?
Justin's a great quarterback. I think he can do everything. He can make any pass, and he can definitely hurt you with his feet. So, there's not really anything that he can't do. I think he's gotten better and better from the time that I came on here, came to the Bears, and up until now. So definitely excited for the future with him. And then, he's got me beat, obviously. But, it's been a pleasure just to, just play alongside of him.
That's awesome. Jason, you have anything?
Yeah, Roshon, last question for you. Big game on New Year's Day. What's your official score prediction for Texas-Washington?
I'm really not good with score predictions. I'm never going to win. I'm going to say 34-27 us, Texas.
There you go.
Do you have any bets with Kyler Gordon?
Nah, we don't have any bets going on. But he knows what's up. I've been in his ear about the game coming up, so he knows.
Wait, speaking of that, who's the biggest trash talker when it comes to their college? Is it Eddie Jackson with Alabama?
Yeah.
You had him beat in
listen.
September for sure.
Yeah, I did. He didn't have much to say to me back in September, so we're all good.
Roshon, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. You're doing great things on the field. Good luck against the Falcons and good luck at the rest of the season. Thank you for joining us.
Most definitely. Thank y'all.
That was pretty cool to have Roshon Johnson joining us here. And I know, Jason, that it probably did a lot for you to hold back from not being geeked out that you were able to finally get a Longhorn who is also a Chicago Bear on our show.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, when you go to a school like the University of Texas, and no ill will to any of the athletic staff at the school, the sports information department does a wonderful job at UT. And among the things that they do a wonderful job of is gatekeeping the athletes. And so as student media at the school, we were never able to get that one-on-one interview time with the football players. And so that was the first time I have ever been able to talk to Roshon Johnson. And super cool getting to talk to one of the very few people who is both a Chicago Bear and a Texas Longhorn. So very cool, Mom.
Great. Well, feel free to use any of it in your student television reports as well.
Yeah, right. I more so in my reel, which not to continue to self-advertise, but that will also be up on my Twitter. And for any of those listening who are hiring. But before then, I have my 3 predictions, my favorite part of the show. And so let's just dive right into that. So
take it away.
Take it away. My first of the 3 predictions. I know this has been a football episode, but I saw a crazy stat today on Twitter, and I don't think it's going to change before this episode gets put up. The Chicago Cubs they hired Craig Kimbrell, and then they literally haven't done anything. They haven't made a minor league signing. They haven't made a major league signing. I don't believe that they've made a trade either. And the White Sox, there's like this graph of, the White Sox have spent like $25 million this offseason, and the Cubs have spent $0.00 million on players. And that's going to change. It has to change. So that's going to be the easiest prediction I have all year is I'm going to give it 2 weeks once 2024 starts, and then the Cubs will make their major league signing. It's going to have to be a starting pitcher. I mean, you look at the rotation, that was really what ended their season prematurely last season. They need to add a veteran starting pitcher, and there are still quite a few out there. Especially, they can do what the White Sox usually do, which is value shop at the dollar store for a veteran 5th starter in January. And so I think the Cubs will probably end up doing that, but no Ohtani or Yamamoto under the tree, as some of us might have predicted a couple months ago.
All right. Prediction number 2, Jason.
Prediction number 2, we got to luckily talk a little bit about the college football playoff here, which is super exciting. I never really thought that we'd do that Texas crossover episode, but hey, Texas is playing in the playoff, and I think that they're going to beat Washington. Just really like the way that those two teams, that Texas stacks up with Washington offensively. I think the Washington's front 7 is actually going to kind of struggle to get pressure on Texas, and we saw what Quinn Ewers can do with the clean pocket these last 2 games against Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. And man, if he has a clean pocket against Washington, it doesn't matter how high stakes the game is. I think that he's going to be able to sit there calmly and do his thing. So not only give me the Longhorns in the Sugar Bowl, but give me Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I just love Michigan's running attack on offense. I think that their front 7, their entire defensive unit is very strong. But you look at the things that they've done right this season, and it's run the ball down the throat of the opponent and keep the ball beyond the 50-yard line on defense. Those are 2 things that they shouldn't have that big of a problem doing against Alabama. You look at Penn State and Ohio State, and you kind of say if they're able to do it against them, they can do it against them. I think that does apply here. So my official national championship prediction is Michigan against Texas, which I think would be a great game. Certainly wouldn't hear any complaints from my side.
All right. And your final prediction, is that a winner of the national championship?
No. I can't do that. I feel like, because if I were to go on here and predict a winner out of Michigan and Texas, not only will that team not win, neither of those teams will play in the national championship. And as someone who will be there in Houston, I've got my fingers crossed for that national championship matchup. So unfortunately, that cannot be one of my predictions, but I'm going to say that the Chicago Bulls fire sale is going to begin here pretty soon. Yes, they have been winning, but, when you look at it, it's probably good that they're winning right now because it's building the value of their players come February. People say Jerry Reinsdorf is okay with the 10 seed. He knows that's not acceptable. So I'm going to go down a list of players that I don't think are going to be Chicago Bulls in the next 2 months. Well, we'll start with the obvious. Alex Caruso, he's gone. 2 first-round picks for him. Zach LaVine. If the Bulls can find a taker, Zach LaVine would be gone by tomorrow. So he's going to be gone. Eventually, someone will take him. DeMar DeRozan, too, I think will be gone. I think they'll find a taker for Patrick Williams. And amazingly, Kobe White, perhaps the most valuable of the bunch, is for sure gone. Unfortunately, he's nothing that the Bulls can build around. But if Arturas Karnisovas in that front office were to have looked at the start of the season and the Bulls were to have had 5 tradable pieces right now, I think that they'd be like, whoa, we need to jump on that. And I'd jump on that. I think they will come February. So the wins have been nice. It's we're sitting here. They've won like 9 of 12 or 8 of 11, which is super nice. Like they hadn't really shown many signs of life throughout the season. So we'll take it for now. But I don't think literally half those players will be on the Bulls in the next few months.
All right, Jason, thank you very much. Having Roshon Johnson on the show today just brought me back to the days covering Cedric Benson with the Bears. And he was such a maligned figure here. Thomas Jones, had solidified the spot. He was a locker room leader, and Cedric Benson came in. He held out and then reported late, did not fit in well with a veteran locker room that the Bears had at that time. And he was very maligned, and he was very much behind the 8 ball throughout his career in Chicago. And you just kind of saw this kid go from super talented and eager and confident to losing his confidence, not enjoying his time as a pro. He had the accident on the lake. I believe it was in Austin where he was arrested. It was something silly. And I was able to talk to him when all this news was coming out. He gave me some information, and he was really made fun of for the fact that he had told me that first thing he did was start calling out for his mom. And, people made fun of him for that. And I always saw him as just this figure that had so much talent, but was really, really whipped down because of the criticism and the veteran locker room that the Bears had at that time. So when he passed away in that tragic motorcycle accident, my heart just fell to his mother for that, because you just want people to have a good life. And that's all I had wished for Cedric Benson after his years with the Chicago Bears. So I hope Roshon Johnson has a great career with the Chicago Bears. I hope that he continues the uphill climb because he's doing great as it is. So that's going to wrap it up. And you can follow Roshon Johnson on social media at Roshon, and follow him with the Chicago Bears as well. And Jason, if people want to follow us,
you can follow us anywhere. Please follow us on Twitter at TSAHS. Now I just read it off the logo. It's so much easier that way. TSAHS pod. That's where we are on Twitter. And if you like us, please subscribe to our show and rate us. It's most helpful if you do that on YouTube. That's where I like to watch it. But you can also listen to our podcast anywhere you get your audio. My go-to is the ESPN Chicago app. Super cool interface, super pretty on there. And you can access all the other radio shows and podcasts from the network. So that's super cool as well, including both of my mom's shows. So very nice. And anything else, Mom?
I think we just want to say our thanks to Jake Cantu and for everything he's done for us this past year. He's our producer at ESPN Chicago. As Jason said, that's where you get the audio version of all of our podcasts. So thank you all for joining us as well. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, X, as Jason said, TSAHS pod, or at Jason Conander, or at ESPN Peggy as well. That is it for this episode of the Sportscaster and her son. Happy New Year, everybody. Go Longhorns.
Hook 'em horns. Happy New Year, Mom.
All right. Take care, everyone. So long.